All right, good evening, everybody. My name's Adam White, and it is time once again for the Alaska Airmen's Association Government and Legislative Affairs Update. Again, I apologize for last month's, technical difficulties that we had doing that update for you last month. It, uh, it did get actually posted on the same day. It was just close to midnight that night. So hopefully you had a chance to go back and watch that update. This month, however, doing something different because hopefully while you're watching this, if it's live, well, it wouldn't be live because I'm pre-recording it because I'm going to be on an airplane on Tuesday night on my way to Juneau, and I'll talk more about that in just a minute. Now, while there may be Wi-Fi on Alaska Airlines aircraft, it's not going to be possible for me to give you a live update while I'm traveling across the great state of Alaska on our way, or on my way anyway, with maybe 100 or so of my closest friends on our way down to Juneau. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. But again, I apologize for last month's technical difficulties. Hopefully this will be uploaded and not have any problems doing it that way. In April, we'll see about how we go about doing these updates again. Where I can have some live interaction with you. I can already tell you I don't like doing it this way. I got no interactions. I don't know who's paying attention and watching. I don't know how many of you are out there or if you got any questions. So we're still trying to dial this in a little bit better. But first, before I take any more time, let me start working through some of the issues that I've been working for you throughout the past 30 days or so on behalf of the Alaska Airmen's Association and your membership. I did some traveling. Boy, have I been doing a lot of traveling. You know, March is a great time to be in Alaska, and it just seems that I'm not home much in March. Was down in the Seattle and Tacoma area, Puyallup specifically, back in February for the Northwest Aviation Conference and Trade Show. That was a great opportunity to visit with a lot of our vendors that come to the Great Alaska Aviation Gathering in May, 4th and 5th of this year, by the way, at the Palmer Fairgrounds, so you don't want to miss that. But it was a great opportunity to walk the halls, visit with a lot of contacts and a lot of great friends that I've been able to meet and kind of foster some good relationships through the years and not have any obligations, not have to walk around and help put on the trade show. So that was a good thing to do, getting ready for May. While I was in the area, however, the primary reason for being down there was to go visit the FAA Western Service Center. That is over in Des Moines, Washington, just south of the SeaTac Airport. That is where a lot of the decision makers, a lot of the folks that do a lot of things that impact Alaska, that's where they're based. And so take advantage of being in the area. Went down and had a great visit with them. Tom George with AOPA was with me in that meeting. A lot of great things were talked about. Very, very productive time visiting face to face. During COVID, we stopped doing those meetings, and now that COVID is gone and past couple of years, we've been able to go back and visit in person. And we all know this. There's no replacement for a face-to-face sit-down conversation across the table and working through the issues. Some of the things we worked on is, it's a little difficult to know who is who and what's what and how the organization of the FAA is structured. It's so confusing that I have people in the FAA call me sometimes wanting to know who the person would be to talk to within the FAA to find out an issue. So org charts, trying to figure out some of the lay of the land, who's responsible for what office takes care of this and that. And so that was a productive conversation. Designated mountainous areas. We are still trying to get the FAA to reevaluate mountainous areas. And they want to do it. They've got some data that they can feel like they can improve this with. Trying to work through the parts of the FAA at the Washington, D.C. level, actually, to get it done. And so that was a great topic of conversation. No significant updates on that particular issue. But how does that affect you as a VFR pilot? Well, maybe not so much. But if you have any intent or desire to start flying IFR, or if you do fly IFR, you know that mountainous designations add a significant buffer to airway routes when it comes to altitude and lateral separation from terrain. So we're trying to get these mountainous areas shrunk down to be more reflective of what's really out there. By the way, the Yukon Flats, considered mountainous area. So yeah, we can do better, right? Some of the other things we talked about, I'm just checking things off my list as we go here. We talked about NAVA decommissionings. This is a major concern for us here with the Alaska Airmen's Association, because here in Alaska, the military does a significant amount of GPS interference testing, also known as jamming for the civilians out here. And it is troubling that a lot of the nav aids are either not working, the legacy nav aids, the land-based nav aids, whether they're VORs or an NDB, if you are so fortunate to fly an aircraft with an ADF, which, by the way, I flew with a great friend of mine today who has a beautiful 185 and a working ADF receiver in it. Man, it was fun to fly behind an ADF again. Anyway, I kind of geek out with that stuff. But having a conversation with the FAA at the Western Service Center about NAVA decommissioning and the impacts that has on us when the GPS just turns off. And what do we do when we may find ourselves in marginal conditions? And it really would be nice to have a nav aid to be able to help us get to our destination. So we all know that the NDBs are going away, but at what rate and how fast is that happening? Always a good conversation to have with the folks there at the Western Service Center. The Alaska Chart Supplement, you've probably noticed that the salmon colored book, or if you have an electronic flight bag using your tablet, be able to go in and search and find that information. The back matter for the supplement has been changing. Some of those things have gone away, some new things have come in. The biggest hurdle that the FAA has right now is trying to figure out what part of the FAA actually owns the data that may be on a particular page or not. So again, it's not just us that has a difficult time sometimes navigating the labyrinth of the FAA. And so that's been a big hurdle for the Western Service Center, is to try to figure out who actually owns the data that is presented on a particular page of the supplement. So they're making great headway towards that. You'll notice that in this new chart cycle, and as we continue to move forward, the Kenai CTAF area, Kenai Soldotna CTAF changes. There's more and more of that information that's being published. We weren't able to get all of it rolled out in the same publication cycle across all the outlets, but more and more of that data is becoming available. So we talked a great length about that, and a lot of really good things came out of that conversation. One of the things that we talked a lot about is that it would be very nice if we would go from the Matsu CTAF area to maybe the Cook Inlet CTAF area on the next page, and then the Kenai and Soldotna CTAF area on the adjacent page. And they totally agree with that idea. They think it's a great idea, and that's what's going to be happening. Trying to do more and more of those things so that it's actually easy to find things in the back of the Alaska supplement. Don't hold your breath. It's going to take some time, but they're working on it. They agreed that is that's an important thing. One of the things that actually this next item consumed the most of our time in our conversation, and that is with the Anchorage Airspace Bowl, the Anchorage Bowl Airspace Redesign. Mouthful, sorry. All of this has been going on for several years now. You probably remember some of these things. You probably wondered what's going on with this project. Well, they are still working on it. All this is because the military needs to have an ILS to runway 16 at Elmendorf. And by the time they're done with it, it's going to change to runway 17 because they're going to have a Magvar change. But anyway, part of that process is, since we're doing this, we're going to have to redesign some of the Anchorage airspace. Part 93 airspace is a part of that conversation. Those of you that fly in the Anchorage area are very familiar with the Part 93 airspace. As a transient user of the Anchorage airspace, I got to tell you, I study the night before those VFR routes in and out of Anchorage, because I've been doing it for 30 years, but there's just something about that I don't do it every day. Makes me kind of nervous to make sure I want to do it right. Some of those routes are going to change. Some of them may be redesigned. There may be different routes. This is all part of the process. The FAA is putting everything on the table to talk about and work through in this airspace redesign. I will tell you that the Alaska Airmen's Association has been an integral part of the industry talking with the FAA throughout this process, and as we continue to go forward, we will become more involved because the public involvement aspect of this is coming. And so just pay attention to the emails that come out from the Airmen's Association. Pay attention to what I talk about in these updates as to when and how the best way is to voice your opinion about some of the proposals that will be coming out. I've had an opportunity to see some of those proposals, looking over the shoulder of the folks doing these things as they were showing us these proposals on some maps and the computer screens and stuff. We were able to talk a little bit about that because it hasn't gone out yet, and so it was still totally legitimate to do that. You can expect some significant changes and some pretty good improvements, I would think, based on what I've seen so far. However, we do have some concerns, and so we will work through those when it comes time to be able to do that, and so be ready. The good thing is that Class B airspace has been taken off the table. That was a big concern early on, is that maybe we go to Class B airspace and not have Class Charlie, and then, boy, all the things that go along with that. So you will most likely see an increase in the size and the areas that Class Charlie airspace covers with this moving forward, and that's all going to be up for public comment and how that may impact some of the Part 93 airspace and what that looks like in the future. So big stuff coming there, and when I ask for your input, I really need you to look at that and give me your opinions and feedback so I can make sure that we are advocating the best way we can for you, our member. So I mentioned at the beginning of all this that I'm going to Juneau this week, and that's why this particular video was pre-recorded because I am on an airplane at the normally scheduled time to do these live updates on my way to Juneau. I sit on the Aviation Advisory Board for DOT. That board advises the DOT commissioner and by then default the governor on aviation issues in the state. I represent the non-commercial membership-based organizations, which would be the Alaska Airmen's. It also includes other groups like EAA and AOPA and the airport user groups across the state. That's who I represent on that board. And so we are having our meetings this quarter in Juneau so that we can interface directly with the governor's office and with legislators on aviation issues. Now, some of the things that are on our agenda to talk about is workforce retention. That is a major hurdle and obstacle for DOT. That is getting employees and then being able to keep them, because competition is incredibly stiff for skilled workers. So that's an ongoing conversation there with that advisory board. One of the other things that is on the agenda for us to talk about is AWOS issues at rural airports. Upwards of 50% of the AWOS stations in the state have some kind of a problem with them from any given time or another. Some of them are still operating. They just may have one particular weather sensor that's out. Some of them may be operating just fine. They just don't have a connection to the outside world. And so unless you can listen to it on a radio as you get close, you don't know what the weather is before you get there. Others have other problems. Some of them are completely turned off and have been for months. All kinds of issues for the FAA to fix these things and keep them up and running. This is a major concern for the state as we rely heavily on aviation for keeping our economy going, keeping health and social services operating. People have access to all kinds of things, and aviation is a big deal. We all know that costs are going up for everything, That's also happening for DOT, not just in labor and workforce, but in the cost of materials, cost of fuel to operate the equipment to maintain and clear snow, maintain airports. Costs are going up everywhere, and so that's going to be a big discussion. We're talking through budgets and other things there. And of course, we've got pretty much a full day on Thursday scheduled to walk the halls of the Capitol building, talking with legislators about some of their concerns, being able to be a resource for them, to help them and answer questions about aviation-related issues that they may have. And that's a great time. I really enjoy that day every year of being able to walk the halls and be a resource for our elected officials when it comes to aviation-related issues. So your membership plays a part in getting the Airmen's Association to be a part of that board. As I said, I currently sit in that seat that represents non-commercial aviation membership organizations, and it's a big deal. It's important for us to be there. We do have a very strong voice in that advisory board. Some of the other things I wanted to just briefly mention, because we're getting pretty close to the time limit that I want to try to keep this under. You probably have seen that there's a proposal by President Biden to increase jet fuel tax. Actually a 5-fold increase. It would go up to $1.06 a gallon if the president gets his request to raise jet fuel taxes. Now, I would say that probably more than 90% of the people watching this video right now do not burn jet fuel. And you're thinking, yeah, but that doesn't impact us. Well, be careful, because it does have a tendency to trickle down. Once they tax one type of fuel, they tend to go after the others. And we are in a transition right now away from leaded fuel, and there's all kinds of things going on right now with 100 low lead and extra taxes in some locations, wanting to eliminate the sale and the availability of 100 low lead in other places. And so there's a lot of things going on with fuel for aviation right now, and this tax that's being proposed by the president, to be honest with you, is just not helping the industry. And so the National Business Aircraft Association has come out very strongly opposed to that, along with other organizations. And so keep an eye out and an ear open as to what's going to be happening there. One other thing that we're coming into is the time of year for the FAA to go around to larger airports, or busier airports at least, and have runway safety action team meetings. You may hear that phrase, the RSAT, that may be talked about at your airport. There is a public component to these meetings. I would strongly encourage you to attend those meetings if possible. It helps you understand what's going on at your airport. It helps you understand what's going on when it comes to traffic conflicts and concerns with ATC and other aspects of safety when it involves the runways. So keep an eye open for announcements about some of those airports around the state, because this is the time of year as we gear up for the summer season, which is just around the corner. So get ready to find out more about those. Also, I've already mentioned it, but just a reminder that the Great Alaska Aviation Gathering is in Palmer, May 4th and 5th at the Alaska State Fairgrounds. Look forward to seeing you there. It's always a great time, and it's a good chance to visit and catch up with all of you. I want to make sure that you know that the raffle cub that we're giving away this year, the next scheduled live stream for that build is on Thursday, March 21st at 2 p.m., where our staff will be talking to the guys over at Dancini Aero and the incredible job they're doing building this airplane, where you'll get to see some pictures and some updates and some videos as to how that aircraft is coming along, where it will be raffled off on Sunday, May 5th at the Great Alaska Aviation Gathering. If you haven't purchased your ticket yet, I would strongly encourage you to go ahead and do that. You can go to our website, alaskaairmen.org, and find out how to buy your ticket online there. Ticket sales help fund the operations of the organization. Your membership is vitally important, but your membership dues is not enough to run the organization and do all the things that we do when it comes to the next gen group, trying to get the younger demographic involved in aviation, when it comes to scholarships and when it comes to government and legislative affairs and our advocacy program. It helps fund that. So buy your ticket and be ready. Buy more than one if you want, but be ready to find out who the winner is. Hopefully it'll be you, once again, on Sunday, May 5th at the Great Alaska Aviation Gathering. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and sign off, and I will talk to you later and see you next month, if nothing else, and hopefully see you at the Great Alaska Aviation Gathering. See you then.